today we're doing roast cauliflower with cauliflower puree, pickled leaves and a nice little shallot dressing. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is get a pan of water on and bring it up to the boil. In this pan we're going to put some thyme, some fresh thyme and garlic, just a couple of sprigs of thyme, a couple of crushed bulbs of garlic, you haven't got to worry about peeling them, and just one piece of star anise. 1 minute of water, bring that up to the boil and then just pull it off and let it simmer so it's ready to go. Then the next thing we're going to do is make the pickling liquor for the cauliflower leaves. So in here we've got some white wine vinegar. You're going to need 75 millilitres of white wine vinegar, and then 25 grams of sugar, caster sugar, normal sugar, whatever. Pop that into the vinegar. You're going to need 50 grams of water. Pour that into the vinegar and the sugar. Then you want to add another little sprig of thyme, another bulb of garlic, crush it with the back of a knife, chuck that into the pickling liquor, one more star anise, and that's your pickling liquor ready. And all you're going to do is bring that up to the boil. Once it comes up to the boil, pull it off, just leave it to one side, just let it cool down slightly. Next step, prepping the cauliflower. So what you want to do, turn it over so you've got the root, and then just, you can see there, just at the bottom of the cauliflower, take a nice big sharp knife and cut straight down like that. So you get expose all the root. Pull all the leaves off the side and then just pop that to one side. And what you can do is go through these leaves. The nice ones from the middle, the nice tender ones, you can actually eat these. And what you're going to do is just take each leaf, trim a little bit of the root off, and on the back of the leaf, this root here, just take some of that off so you haven't got as much root, and then ready to go into the pickle. So be careful not to cut your hands, make sure you've got a nice sharp knife. Again, you haven't got to cut too much of that off, obviously the more you get off, it's not maybe too chunky and it'll cook slightly quicker. So once you've got all of them ready and your pickles come to the boil, pull it off and let it cool down, and then just drop the leaves into the pickle like that. And then just literally leave them in there like that to cool down. Drop them with a little bit of cling film, then the steam from the pickling liquor will help them cook, and then just pop them to one side, plenty of sauce in, and then just, let's say, let them cool down, and then you can leave them to one side until you're ready to plate out. Job done. So with the cauliflower, depending on how thick you want the steaks, if you've got a cauliflower this big, you could probably get 2 nice steaks out of it. But for this, we're just going to do one. With the cauliflower, find the root in the middle, turn it over, and you want to cut just either side of that root. Like that. So what you'll get is a nice big cauliflower steak. The reason you leave the root in is so that when we cook it, it doesn't all fall apart and you'll get a nice whole piece like that. So what you're going to do next is any leaves or anything like that, just trim them off and take a nice little sharp knife, and you want to score all the way down into the root like that. Try not to go right to the edge so it doesn't fall apart. The reason we do this is so that when we cook it, the inside of the root will cook at the same time as the outside, and it won't go all mushy and the root won't be rock hard. So once you've done that and you're happy with it and it's all trimmed up, you're literally going to pop this into the pan of water with the thyme and the garlic and the star anise. Okay. Make sure the water is just covering it, and then you want to put that on to simmer for about 6 to 8 minutes and keep checking it. All you want to do is get the tip of your knife and just go around to the outside, go into the root and make sure that it's nice and soft. Obviously be careful that you don't overcook it because it will start to fall apart, but you are going to cook it again under the grill, so you want to keep just a little bit of bite in the cauliflower. Cool. Next tip, get another pan of water on, bring that up to the boil, take 1/2 of your cauliflower and just break off some of the nice big florets like this. You only want about 3 or 4 of these, depending on how hungry you are. Take nice big ones like that, literally just cut them in half. You've got 3 or 4 pieces like that, and then just put them to one side. And then when the water comes up to the boil, you're going to drop them in again 3 or 4 minutes until they're just soft. Then you're going to take them out, set them to one side, ready for when we plate up. Try to avoid using too much of the root, but you're literally just going to take the cauliflower, remove as much of the root as you can, and then you're going to chop it as small as you can. The reason we chop it so small is because we're going to make it into a puree. The smaller it is, the quicker it will cook. And again, just go through it like that. It will go everywhere. It will be quite messy, but part of the fun of it. Obviously, if you want to use any bits you've got left over, like I say, if you get 2 steaks out of it, you still have enough. But you can either have more puree or you can make more of the roasted bits. Depends what you fancy. Then once you've got all your cauliflower into the saucepan, when I do this at work, we use half double cream and half butter. But obviously we're going to make this into a vegan dish, so we're going to use almond milk. If you can't use almond milk, you could just boil this in water. If you wanted to use double cream, you could use double cream. But all we're going to do is just cover the cauliflower with the almond milk, just like that. A little bit of salt. And bring it up to the boil, and you want to cook it for about 6 to 8 minutes until all the cauliflower's gone really soft. You want this really soft because we're going to blitz it into a puree. So if it's still slightly undercooked or it's bitty, you won't get a nice smooth puree. Depends on how many of these you want. Again, you can cut them smaller, you can cut them bigger, but I like to cut them in half so you've got a nice flat side. So once you take them out of the water, when we dish up, we're just going to pan fry one side just to get it nice and golden. So nice flat edge like that. Just pop them into the water. And again, make sure this water is nicely seasoned, a little bit of salt, and then bring that back up to the boil, give them 4 or 5 minutes. Again, tip of a knife, just check, make sure the root's nice and soft, and you can take them out, set them to one side, ready to pan fry just before we plate up. While everything's on, I'm going to get the shallot dressing ready. So all you're going to do is take some shallots. If you can get banana shallots, they're slightly longer and bigger, they are actually easier to dice. So if you can get hold of them, that'll be easier. So all you're going to do is take the end off, leave the root on, so it's easier to dice, cut them straight in half, and then peel the skin off. Depending on how much you like onion, you can have as little or as much of this as you want really, but I think 1 big banana shallot or 2 of these little ones will be just the right amount. Shallots are better because obviously they're a sweeter onion. You could use normal white onions if you want, obviously they are quite a lot stronger, so shallots would be better for it. Very carefully again with a sharp knife, root of the onion, you're going to go root of the onion away from you, and then you're literally just going to slice into it like that, and then you'll get a nice little diced onion. Again, you haven't got to do it as small as this. If you like onion, you can do them nice and chunky. You know, as long as you've got a nice amount of onion in there, that'll be fine. Cauliflower florets, once they've been in for 5 to 6 minutes, just give them a little stab, just like that. As long as that's not, you know, too hard, they're ready to come out. So you can. So you can just take these off. You can just drain them off like that and just set them to one side until we're ready to pan fry them when we plate up. But with your shallots, once you've got them diced up, again, they can be fine, they can be chunky, it depends how much you like onions. All you're going to do is pop them into a saucepan, just like that. Take a little bit more of your white wine vinegar, just a tiny little splash, just like that. And then take some nice olive oil, and all you're going to do is just cover the onions with olive oil. Not too much, just like that. Make sure you break all the onions up so they're all coated in oil, and then all you want to do is bring the oil up to the heat, so it just starts to, not fry the onions, but it's just hot. So you don't want to fry the onions. When we do this at work, we call it confit. So you're cooking it in the oil, but you're not getting the oil hot that it starts to fry them. So what you want to do, John, is when the oil just starts to come up like that, before anything starts to get fried, take them off, and then just literally set that to one side and leave them to cool down. And then the onions will still soften in that oil, and then they're ready to make, ready to dress the cauliflower with. with your piece of cauliflower, once you've checked that it's nice and soft, so the knife pulls out of it like that. Same as the other ones, once it's nice and soft and the knife just slides in and out and it's not getting stuck, you can take this piece of cauliflower out and again set that to one side. Just let it cool down slightly. Cauliflower puree. Fine sieve or chinois, because you don't want to lose too much of the cauliflower. So put that into a saucepan because you want to keep the juice. Because when you're blitzing the puree, you can add a little bit of that back to it depending on how thick or how loose you want your puree. So once you've checked to make sure it's nice and soft and it's been a little bit mushy, you're just going to pour the cauliflower into the strainer and just let all that drain off. Give it a minute, 30 seconds, make sure all that excess milk comes off. And then again, if you've got a food processor or like a nice proper food processor, you can bang it in there, that's absolutely fine. I've just got a hand blender with the lid goes on this. If you haven't got one of these and you've just got a hand blender, you could do that. What I would suggest doing is drain it off, put this back into the saucepan, add a little bit of the cream to it and then just go over it with a hand blender. It hasn't got to be silky smooth. The only reason you want it as quite puree is because you want to spread it over the top of the big piece of cauliflower, so the smoother you get it, the better it will be. Yeah, so I'm going to whiz this up until it's nice and smooth. If you find that it's quite dry and it's not blitzing up, add a little bit of the cream to it, the almond milk to it. This should take about 2 or 3 minutes. You know, see it's like that. I'm just going to add a little splash more of the almond milk to it. And again, at this point, just give it a little taste. If you think it needs a little bit more salt, just put a little bit more salt in there. But again, season it to your own taste. Once you've got it to that sort of stage, if you want to make it really nice and smooth, wash the sieve up, put that into a bowl, and then push the puree through the sieve, and you should end up with a nice smooth puree like that. Nice. Well, it's not completely smooth, but you see you've got a nice puree like that. Put a little squeeze of black pepper in there, that's what you can see in there, and then that is ready to go. Set that to one side, and yeah, ready for the next bit. The next bit, take the nice big piece of cauliflower you've got and just place it onto a nice baking tray like that, okay? Because we're going to stick it under the grill. There's no trays in there. Yep, that's we're going to put it on there. So what you're going to do is you're going to take cauliflower puree and you're just going to spread a nice layer of that over the top of the cauliflower. So at this point, this dish is vegan. Obviously, if you can't have nuts, then you could do this puree with water. If you're not vegetarian but you'd like to do this, then you could use almond milk, double cream. Get a nice thick layer of the puree just over the top like that. So simple things you could do here. If you wanted to just grate some cheddar cheese over the top of that, stick it under the grill, job done, that'll be absolutely fine. Here I've got this is vegetarian parmesan. So this is parmesan that's been made, it hasn't got any rennet in it. So rennet is the stuff that makes proper parmesan, which makes it not vegetarian because rennet is a meat product. This is vegetarian parmesan, but it is still made with milk. So if you want it completely vegan, you can actually get vegan parmesan, you can get vegan feta, you can get various vegan cheeses if you wanted to put that over there. If you didn't want cheese at all, period, then the Omega seed mix, which is from the blueprint, which is absolutely amazing. This has got sesame seeds, flaxseed, pumpkin seeds, linseeds, all mixed up. Equal amounts, mix it all up, and then you could just sprinkle that over the top of that. But for today, what we're going to do is the parmesan, because with the cheese, when you grill it, obviously the cheese goes nice and golden. So you can get a block of parmesan if you want. I've just got already grated stuff just to make it easy. And then just a nice sprinkle of this. Can you see that, Sean? Here. Nice sprinkle of this over the double cream. Over the cauliflower puree. Again, you can put as much or as little of this on as you want, depending on how much you like the cheese. And then we're just going to stick that under the grill and get it nice and golden. And then I'm going to stick some of that over the top as well because this is lovely. So all we're going to do now is pop that under the grill. And that's probably going to take 4 to 5 minutes, depending on how good your grill is. While that's on, we're going to take a little bit of coconut oil. Get that nice and hot. We're going to take our cauliflower florets from earlier. And all we're going to do, when that oil's nice and hot, we're we're just going to pop them in the flat side down and just get this side nice and roasted. Toast oil's nice and hot, like I say, flat side down, just pop them in there. Like that, that's it. Little squeeze of salt, little squeeze of salt over the top. Okay, you're just going to roast them until that underside's nice and golden, and then once they're ready, just flip them over and put them off to one side to make sure you keep them under the grill. So with the cauliflowers, as you can see, they've just started to go nice and golden, just starting to roast off like that, and that is exactly what you want. If there's some that are a little bit under like that, it's not the end of the world, you can flip them back over and carry on cooking them, but once you get them to that sort of stage, they're pretty much ready to go. And what you can do is just flip them over, pull the pan to one side and just leave them to keep them warm until you're just ready to plate up. Once you take your cauliflower out from under the grill, if you are going to put anything else on it, like any seed mix or anything like that, I suggest you do it now so you don't cover your plate in it. Just going to sprinkle a little bit of this seed mix over the top, and then that is ready to go. So what we're going to do now is pop this into the middle of your plate, just like that. If you've got any of the hot puree left, just going to put a little bit of the puree on the plate like that. Take some of your roasted cauliflowers, pop them on there, just like that. Take out a couple of your pickled leaves, pop them on there as well. Like I say, these will be quite crunchy and they'll be quite sharp because of the vinegar, but with the creaminess of the cauliflower and that, it will cut through it really, really well. Pop them on there like that. Then take your shallots, your vinegar and your onions, and just use that as a little bit of dressing over the whole thing. If you want less oil, drain off some of the oil, just pop some of the onions on there like that, and there you go. Posh cauliflower steak, roasted cauliflower and pickled leaves. Done. So yeah, so this is the roasted cauliflower steak. Again, with the steak, if you want to cut them thinner, it's not a problem, just when you're boiling them, careful that you don't break them up, and then obviously take the steak from the middle of the root. So yeah, cauliflower steak, cauliflower puree, roasted cauliflowers, pickled leaves. See that knife goes into there just nicely. It's still got a little bit of bite to it, it's not like mush. Bit of puree, some pickled leaf. Spot on. Again, each stage you're going through, make sure you're seasoning it. Make sure you season the puree, season the cauliflowers as you're roasting them off. Add a little bit of salt at each stage, so when you're cooking it, you put the salt into it. If when you're eating it, you think it needs a little bit more salt, just a little squeeze over the top. Well done.